In the buzzing city of Port Harcourt, 19-year-old Adiz stepped into the University of Port Harcourt with dreams larger than life itself. She had earned a scholarship through her brilliance, and for the first time, she felt like her future was finally taking shape. From the outside, she looked like she belonged. Her hair was neatly braided, her blouse pressed to perfection, and her iPhone, a borrowed one from a kind neighbor, glimmered in her hands. But behind the poise was a story of struggle. Her mother, Maman Kem, worked as a cleaner in the hostels, humble, hardworking, and proud of her daughter. Adiz had promised herself she would never let anyone look down on them, but as weeks passed, she found herself slowly bending under the pressure of fitting in. Her new friends, Amanda, Priska, and Jayla, dressed in designer clothes and talked about shopping trips in Dubai. Adiz laughed along, pretending she shared the same life. But one thing haunted her. What would happen if they found out who her real mother was, the woman in faded wrappers who mopped hostel floors while she recited poetry in lecture halls? Maman Kem was up before the sun, wrapping her faded Ankara scarf tightly over her head before stepping into the chilly morning air. As a hostel cleaner at the University of Port Harcourt, her days started early and ended late. But what mattered most to her was that Adiz, her pride, was finally in the university. She carried a nylon bag containing rice and stew she had managed to prepare after skipping her own meals. Her heart swelled with joy as she approached Adiz's department building. She had overheard from another cleaner that Adiz had a class around that time. But when she arrived, a group of students stood outside laughing and pointing. One of them leaned toward another and whispered, "Who invited the hostel cleaner here?" Maman Kem held her bag tighter, smiling nervously. She was used to being invisible, but today she hoped her daughter would see her sacrifice. Just then, Adiz emerged, her brows furrowed. She froze at the sight of her mother, torn between shame and love. "Mama, what are you doing here?" Adiz hissed quietly, her voice laced with panic. Her classmates were already whispering. Maman Kem smiled and held out the food. "I brought rice for you. I know you haven't been eating well." Adiz glanced at the worn nylon bag in horror. Priska and Amanda were watching from a distance, smirking. "You didn't have to come here, Mama. This isn't your place," Adiz said, her voice cold. Her mother's face fell, the smile slowly fading. "I just wanted to see you," she whispered. Adiz stepped back, folding her arms. "I told my friends you work in a hospital kitchen. You can't just show up like this." The words hit Maman Kem like a slap. A cleaner, yes, but not a liar. She turned away slowly, the food still in her hands. "I'll leave," she said softly. Adiz didn't watch her go. Her classmates burst into laughter. One of them asked mockingly, "That your mother?" Adiz shook her head. "No," she lied. "She's just one of the hostel staff." Back at home in Rumuokoro, Maman Kem sat on the edge of her mattress, her heart heavy. The nylon bag lay untouched beside her. Her younger son, 11-year-old Chibweek, ran in from school. "Mama, did Ada like the food?" She looked away, brushing imaginary dirt from her wrapper. "She was busy," she replied. Chibweek frowned but said nothing. That night, she barely slept. Meanwhile, Adiz was glowing with popularity. Amanda had offered her a pair of sneakers, and Priska had invited her to a party in GRA. But beneath her smile, guilt gnawed at her. She hadn't expected the moment to sting so deeply. That night, she stared at the ceiling, hearing her mother's voice, soft, loving. "I just wanted to see you." For the first time, her conscience whispered, was her new identity worth denying the woman who gave up everything? Life moved on quickly on campus. Adiz's reputation blossomed. Everyone believed she was the daughter of a successful businesswoman based in Lagos. Her stories were consistent, her accent slightly polished, and her wardrobe, thanks to Amanda's hand-me-downs, impressive enough. But every time she saw a cleaner push a mop across the hostel floor, her heart skipped. One afternoon, she overheard a student gossiping. One of the hostel cleaners said her daughter studies here. Imagine that. Adiz's stomach churned. That evening, she called her mother. "Mama, don't come to my school again, please," she said sternly. Maman Kem was silent for a moment. "I understand," she said finally. "I don't want to shame you." "It's not that," Adiz began. But the call ended. She held the phone, her throat tight. At that moment, she realized something painful. She was slowly becoming someone she didn't recognize, someone her real mother might not be proud of. As weeks passed, Adiz began treating the housemaid at her friend's lodge, Cynthia, with condescension. She mimicked how Amanda and Priska spoke to her. "Didn't I tell you to clean this place properly?" she snapped one morning. Cynthia looked at her with quiet confusion but obeyed. Adiz noticed the shift in herself, but the praise and admiration she received from her new circle kept her going. Meanwhile, Maman Kem was falling ill. The stress of work and heartbreak was taking a toll. Chibweek noticed she coughed more and barely ate. "Mama, should I tell Ada?" he asked once. She shook her head, weakly smiling. "She's busy with school. Don't worry her." But Chibweek was worried. He began skipping school to help her with small chores. He even started selling sachet water in traffic to raise money. Adiz, unaware of any of this, was busy preparing for her departmental dinner, where she'd be awarded Most Elegant Student. Her heels were high, her makeup flawless, but her roots were cracking beneath the surface. On the day of the departmental dinner, Adiz felt on top of the world. Students lined up to take photos with her. Cameras flashed. Amanda handed her a glass of mocktail and whispered, "You're becoming one of us now." Adiz smiled, but inside, she felt hollow. As the DJ played Afrobeats, she danced like she didn't have a care. But that night, as she got into bed, a message popped up on her phone. It was from Chibweek. "Mama is coughing blood. She doesn't want me to tell you, but I'm scared." Adiz's heart dropped. She read the message twice. The glamorous night faded into panic. She called home immediately. No answer. She called again. Finally, Chibweek picked up. "She's sleeping," he whispered. "Too weak to talk." Adiz couldn't sleep. Guilt gripped her like chains. For the first time in months, she didn't care about her reputation. Her mother was dying, and she had turned her back on her. The next morning, Adiz skipped lectures and rushed home. The journey from Uniport to Rumuokoro felt longer than ever. When she entered the tiny room, the sight broke her. Maman Kem lay curled on a mattress, her lips pale, her hands trembling. "Mama." Adiz knelt beside her, tears already flowing. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Maman Kem opened her eyes weakly and tried to smile. "My Ada. You came." Chibweek watched silently from a corner. Adiz helped her mother sit up, fed her warm pap, and wiped her face. That evening, she stayed home, washing clothes, sweeping, and helping Chibweek with homework. She had missed this life, the simplicity, the love, the truth. Before bed, she held her mother's hand and whispered, "I will never be ashamed of you again." Maman Kem squeezed her hand with surprising strength. "You are my pride, Ada. I only ever wanted you to fly higher than me. But not if it means losing who you are." The next week, Adiz took Maman Kem to a private clinic, using savings she had stashed away for fashion and outings. The doctor diagnosed early-stage pneumonia. "She's lucky you brought her early," he said. Adiz nodded silently, guilt eating at her. She stayed with her mother through every drip, every medicine dose. Amanda and Priska called, but she ignored their messages. On the fourth night, Mrs. Williams, a lecturer who had once admired Adiz's brilliance, spotted her at the clinic. She approached kindly, and after hearing what was going on, she offered to help pay the rest of the bill. "You're one of the smartest girls I've ever taught," she said. "But never lose your soul in the pursuit of status." That night, Adiz cried quietly in the clinic hallway. Not just for her mother's illness, but for the months she had wasted being someone she wasn't. When Maman Kem was discharged, Adiz returned her to their small home in Rumuokoro. She cleaned the house thoroughly, bought groceries, and even paid Chibweek's school fees. She took up a part-time job at a tutorial center near the campus, tutoring JAM candidates. The pay wasn't much, but it helped. At school, whispers began. "Did you hear Adiz is from the slums?" Amanda and Priska confronted her in front of the faculty building. "So, your mom is actually a cleaner?" Amanda asked coldly. Adiz looked them in the eye. "Yes. And I'm proud of her." The girls laughed and walked away. Adiz didn't flinch. Something inside her had changed. She no longer needed validation. Instead, she walked straight to the library and began planning how to apply for a national scholarship. She had a new goal: not to fit in, but to rise, honestly. A few weeks later, the university held a seminar on youth leadership and values. Adiz was invited to speak, thanks to her academic performance. She stood on the podium, heart racing, scanning the crowd. Then she spoke. "For months, I pretended to be who I wasn't," she began. "I denied my own mother to fit into a world that only values labels. But my mother, who scrubbed floors and starved so I could eat, is the real hero." The hall was silent. Then applause erupted. Students, even lecturers, stood in admiration. Amanda and Priska didn't clap. They left. But Adiz didn't care. Her story had touched many. That night, she returned home to tell Maman Kem about her speech. Her mother smiled, tears in her eyes. "You're finding your voice, Ada. Keep using it." The video of Adiz's speech went viral across the university's social media platforms. Messages poured in. Students from poor backgrounds thanked her for her honesty. Some even shared their own stories. A professor from another university contacted her and offered a mentorship opportunity. Slowly, Adiz became known not just for her beauty or style, but for her courage. Meanwhile, Maman Kem, now recovering, began learning how to make ankara bags with the help of a church group. Chibweek proudly showed Adiz his drawings. He wanted to become an architect. Adiz began to dream again. Not of mansions or clothes, but of building something real, something lasting. And in her heart, she knew that this was the life her mother had always prayed for her to have. Trouble came when Adiz's department head, Professor Idoko, invited her to his office. He smiled politely but cut straight to the point. "There's a girl spreading rumors about your speech. That you only did it for sympathy." Adiz remained calm. "Let her talk," she replied. "I know who I am." He smiled again. "That's why I like you. Strong mind. Don't stop pushing forward." Leaving the office, Adiz met Cynthia, the housemaid she once mistreated. "I saw your video," Cynthia said shyly. "It gave me hope." Adiz's eyes softened. "I'm sorry, Cynthia. I wasn't kind to you." Cynthia smiled. "I forgave you a long time ago." They hugged briefly, under the mango tree by the hostel gate. Adiz realized then that every part of her journey mattered: the mistakes, the lessons, the growth. With Mrs. Williams' help, Adiz applied for an international exchange program to South Africa. The application required a personal essay. She wrote from the depth of her soul, about shame, about redemption, and about rediscovering identity. Weeks later, she received the news: she had been accepted, with full sponsorship. She rushed home to tell Maman Kem. Her mother hugged her tightly. "Go and shine, my daughter. But never forget where your light came from," Adiz promised. Before leaving, she bought Maman Kem a new mattress and fridge. For Chibweek, she bought drawing books and crayons. "I'll be back soon," she said, boarding the bus to the airport. The road ahead was long, but she no longer walked in fear. In South Africa, Adiz was welcomed warmly. Her host university treated her like a star. She gave lectures about storytelling and identity. Her accent didn't matter, her honesty did. During one of her classes, a Nigerian girl in tears told her, "Thank you. I was also ashamed of my background. You made me proud to be me." Adiz wrote articles, met dignitaries, and even appeared on a student radio show. But every night, she called Maman Kem. "How is Chibweek?" she'd ask. "Have you eaten today?" Her success never erased her past, it honored it. And deep down, Adiz knew, this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning of her mission to speak for the unseen, the silenced, the ashamed. Months passed, and Adiz returned to Port Harcourt with a fresh fire. She created a campus organization called Rise from the Root, aimed at helping underprivileged students embrace their stories and Chibweek had passed his exams and won a small art contest. Maman Kem's bags began selling in local markets. The family was slowly healing, growing stronger. Adiz held workshops, invited guest speakers, and even started a podcast where students shared stories of resilience. At one of her sessions, Amanda showed up. Quiet, distant, No makeup. Can I talk to you? She asked afterward. They sat under a tree. You were right, Amanda said. I was just afraid too. My dad isn't who I say he is. I made fun of you to hide my own shame. They hugged. No bitterness. Just growth. During Adi's final year at the university, she was nominated for the National Student Impact Award. The ceremony was held in Lagos. Mehman Kem wore a new lace wrapper and smiled proudly from the audience. When Adi's name was called, she walked to the stage, tears threatening to spill. This award belongs to every child who has ever hidden their roots, she said, voice shaking. And to my mother, who gave me wings when all she had were blisters. The hall erupted in applause. Even Professor Idoko had traveled to watch. Mehman Kem wept, wiping her tears with her wrapper. Adiz was no longer a girl running from her past, she was a woman rewriting her future. After graduation, Adiz was offered a job with a non-profit focused on girl-child education. Her story had inspired donors, and her voice became a symbol of truth. She moved to Abuja but kept coming home to visit. Chibweek got a scholarship to study art, and Mehman Kem began training other women in crafts. One evening, sitting outside their now improved home, Adiz turned to her mother. Do you forgive me, Mama? Mehman Kem smiled and squeezed her hand. I forgave you the day you were born. Adiz rested her head on her shoulder, watching the stars. I hope I made you proud. Always, her mother whispered. Always. One Sunday morning, during a women's empowerment event, Adiz was asked to speak again. This time, she stood before hundreds of mothers and daughters. I used to think wealth was about where you lived or what you wore, she said, but true wealth is having people who love you, no matter what. My mother was my first home. My foundation. The women clapped, some with tears. Later, a mother walked up to Adiz with her daughter and whispered, "Thank you for restoring my daughter's heart to me." It was a full-circle moment. Adiz finally understood, when you own your truth, you give others permission to do the same. Years later, Adiz published her first book, Roots Before Roses. It became a bestseller in Nigeria, especially among youths. In it, she wrote, "You can rise without forgetting the soil that held you." Mehman Kem held the first printed copy in her hand, crying softly. "Look at what God has done," she whispered. Adiz dedicated the book to her. To Mehman Kem, my shame, my strength, my story. Readers from across Africa wrote to Adiz, sharing how the book helped them heal their relationship with their own families. She realized then that she was no longer running. She was leading. During a major conference in Ghana, Adiz met a young man named Obinna, calm, driven, and compassionate. He had heard her speak and was instantly drawn to her heart. They began to talk, then travel, then build dreams together. After 2 years of friendship and purpose, he proposed under a mango tree in Port Harcourt, the same tree where she once apologized to Cynthia. Their wedding was simple, beautiful, filled with joy. Mehman Kem danced barefoot with tears in her eyes. Chibweek, now a young architect, gave a touching speech. "She is my sister, my hero." The past was no longer a shadow, it was the soil where their joy grew. Adiz never stopped giving. She opened a foundation for low-income students to get free mentorship, and every year she honored 10 mothers at her annual event. Mehman Kem was the first to receive the Mother of the Year award. Adiz continued speaking on TV, traveling across countries, and writing. But her heart never changed. Every Christmas, she returned home to Rumu Okoro, sat on the floor with Mehman Kem, and helped stir the pot of jollof rice. Fame had not touched her soul. She knew who she was. And she taught others that no matter how far you rise, it's the ground you came from that will always keep you standing. Yes, she held her newborn daughter in her arms. Adiz looked into her little eyes and whispered, "You will never be ashamed of your name. Or your roots." Obinna kissed her forehead. Mehman Kem stood nearby, humming softly, the room filled with warmth. Adiz smiled, her heart full. She had broken the cycle. She had healed the wound. Her child would grow knowing that dignity doesn't come from titles or houses, it comes from truth. And as the sun rose outside their home in Port Harcourt, the woman once ashamed of her mother stood taller than ever, proud of the life they had built together from tears, strength, and grace. Hey family! Sparkling Heart, thank you so much for watching and supporting my channel, it means the world to me. Globe showing Europe Africa sparkles. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you'll be the first to know when I drop more amazing videos. Let's keep growing together.